Hey guys,
Best TAs here,
Ali
and Connor,
coming at you.
with another video.
Beginning. So the goal of this program is to move through a vector provided by the user and count the number of pairs that have a percent difference between the two adjacent values that is less than 1%. Less than 1% between the two values. So that's a comparison. All right. The program should output the locations of the two values and the percent difference calculated, then allow the user to repeat the program if they would like. Okay, so the percent difference formula is V of initial value minus V of final value divided by V initial plus V final divided by 2.
Times 100.
So there's one computational error, and there are 8 coding errors. We're going to do the entire thing. We're going to say, oh, housekeeping commands are not going to be an error, because those are too obvious.
Right.
Okay, so what we're going to immediately want to do is check this while statement, right? And say, okay, this variable, again, doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
So already, right in this line 11, we're going to need to put that in. So line number 11, we need to define again. So again equals 1. So again equals 1. So we look and we count the amount of loops and we count the amount of ends. So we have a loop here for if
The if.
for.
Right.
So there's 4 loops, right? So that means that we need 4 ends. And we count, we only have 1, 2, 3. So we know that at the end of this entire code, because the while loop doesn't have an end that includes the entire code, we're going to need to put in an end at the end right here. So that's going to be the last line. So obviously it's going to be the last correction. That's going to be line 33, and it's going to be an end. We'll just write that in. End. All right. So now we're going to look through this actual while loop. And the one thing you want to check with every while loop is that your variable, this while variable right here, has to change at some point in the while loop. And if it doesn't change, then you can't do anything. So we look through, I don't see an again anywhere. Oh, right here, this menu should be an again. Because if it's not, then the again variable isn't changing. So this repeat needs to change to an again. So that's line 32. And we have to change this repeat to again. So all right. So now our while loop is handled. So that means that these outer parts of the code should be fine. All right. So now we have V enters a vector of values. We go C, and then we go from 1 to size of V. But it says right here that it's a vector. If you use the size command, so size of V will give us a 1, and then the amount of columns, so that'll just be like 3 or something. So this size is going to have a 1 at the beginning, and we can't run this for loop with a matrix as its end. So we need to change this to a length, so that way it's only one dimension. So length of V would just equal 3 right here, because that's the longer dimension of the two. So we're gonna check that as line 16. We want to do 4
4i
I equals 1 to length v.
And minus one part.
All right, but then if we look at this code, you'll notice in here, it references the next value, which is what it's supposed to do based off of the code. But then what's going to happen when we get to, say, 3 in this case? So when we get to 3, it's going to try to reference v of 4, and v of 4 doesn't exist. So we need to make sure that it's not checking the last column. So we're going to end up doing v minus 1. Okay. So now, this percent difference, obviously we just said this is the formula for percent difference, which is actually different from this formula that's right here. So this is our additional error. This is just a computational error. It's not an actual coding error. So in the case of an actual test, you wouldn't want to consider this an error because they'll give you the formula. So this would be pdiff
Is wrong.
equals vi minus vi plus 1 divided by vi plus vi plus 1 divided by 2.
Close your parentheses. Yeah, there you go.
Like that. So I'm not going to write that full thing in. Okay. So then we're going to change this to
Minus one.
length v minus 1. And then we're just going to cross that out because that's the wrong formula. All right.
The greater than.
So now, yeah, the greater than. So we circled up here that the percentage is less than 1%, right? And this definitely is a greater than sign. So we're going to want to correct this right here to be a less than sign. So that's line 18, and it should be if pdiff is less than 0.01. So less than. So these two locations are correct because you're storing a value of 1 for each value of 4.
But C isn't changing.
But C is not changing in this case. So in this line 23 right here, at the end of this if statement, and technically at the end of the for loop itself, we're going to want to increase C as well, because that's going to be our count variable. So in line 23, we're going to do C equals C plus 1. I'm going to write that in. C equals C plus 1. All right. So right here, we define that C is equal to, that location 2 of C is equal to I plus 1. Right?
Yeah.
And so then if we go to from 1 to C, or sorry, it's right here. So we're doing C plus 1, right? So that means that C is going to be greater. It's going to be 1 greater than what it is in these right here. So that means that we have to instead account for this in this for loop right here and subtract 1 from our C value. So our next error is going to be line 28. So for I equals 1 to C minus 1. All right. And then C is a static value at this point. So at this point, C is equal to length V. Yeah, length of V. Yeah. And so this is a static value. This value will not change because we're not changing C at any point here. So if I do location 1 of C, it's just going to be location 1 of length of V every time. Instead, this C value in these three needs to be changing every time. So our last correction is just going to be changing this C to an I. So line 29, all C's go to I. So I'm just going to write in those last two corrections.